Jesus had just fed more than 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. And after everybody had eaten, Jesus told his disciples to get into a ship and go ahead of him to the other side while he sent the crowd away. Then Jesus went up into the mountain by himself to pray. By the time evening came, Jesus was there alone. But the disciples were already out in the middle of the sea, and things weren't going so well. The wind was blowing against them, and the waves were beating against the boat. They'd been out there for hours, trying to make their way across the water. The night kept getting later, the wind kept blowing, and that boat kept getting tossed around by the waves. Then sometime during the 4th watch of the night, somewhere between about 3 and 6 in the morning, something appeared out there on the water. At first, the disciples couldn't tell what they were looking at. There was somebody coming toward them, walking right across the top of the water. The disciples were terrified. They thought they were seeing a spirit, and they cried out for fear. But then a voice came across that water. "Be of good cheer, it is I. Be not afraid." It was Jesus. And Peter answered him, "Lord, if it be thou, bid me come unto thee on the water." Jesus gave Peter one word, "Come." So Peter moved toward the side of that boat. The wind was still blowing, the waves were still moving underneath them, but Jesus had said, "Come." Peter climbed down out of that boat and put his foot onto the water, and it held him. Peter took another step, then another. Out there in the middle of that sea, with the wind still blowing and the waves still moving, Peter was walking on water toward Jesus. And I don't want us to brush past that part. Peter actually did it. He got out of the boat and walked on water. But then Peter started paying attention to the wind around him. Matthew says, but when he saw the wind boisterous, he was afraid. The wind had been there when Peter stepped out of the boat. The waves had been there too. But now Peter was looking at what was happening around him, and he got scared. And Peter started to sink. There wasn't much time for a long prayer. Peter cried out, "Lord, save me." And immediately, Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. Jesus said, "O thou of little faith, wherefore didst thou doubt?" Then Jesus and Peter made their way back to the boat, and the moment they stepped inside, the wind stopped. The men in that boat had watched the whole thing. They had watched Jesus walk across the sea. They had watched Peter climb out of that boat and walk toward him. They had watched Jesus reach down and catch Peter. And now the wind that had fought against them for hours was gone. They worshipped Jesus and said, "Of a truth, thou art the Son of God." Peter gets remembered a whole lot for sinking that night. But sometimes I think we forget, before Peter sank, he walked on water. His faith may not have been perfect, and he got scared. He started looking at everything going on around him, and for a moment, he doubted. But when Peter realized he couldn't keep himself above the water, he knew exactly who to call. "Lord, save me." 3 words. That was all he had time for. And Scripture says, immediately Jesus stretched forth his hand and caught him. Maybe there are going to be times when your faith feels strong enough to climb right out of the boat. And maybe there are going to be times when all you've got left is, "Lord, save me." But I love knowing that the Jesus who told Peter, "Come," was still standing right there when Peter started to sink. Peter's faith faltered, but Jesus' hand didn't.